D, the fourth letter of the English alphabet. It's also known as the sunshine vitamin. Helps build strong bones. It's a nickname for D'Angelo Barksdale from The Wire. It's also something you could give to someone. What does it mean in D, the game? We don't learn that right away. The back of the box gives a list. Daughter, darkness, destiny, despair, delirium, death, damnation. These play a role, but again, not what the big D stands for. As a game, D is minimal on all fronts. It's an FMV CGI experience from the mid-90s. One that's a bit on rails in your movement. It's a short yet slow experience. A minimal story. But my goodness, does its atmosphere draw you in. Coming from the mind of the late Kenji Eno, one of the first major auteurs in the gaming space. A cult figure who left an impact on many notable creators. So let's dive in and see what awaits us within D.
Laura, what are you doing? Go back. Now.
D takes place in the not-so-distant future of 1997 Los Angeles. At least for the game's release time frame of 1995. Mass murder is afoot at the Los Angeles National Hospital. The perpetrator is the hospital's director, Richter Harris, one of America's best-known doctors. He's locked himself up and taken several hostages. Police surround the hospital. His daughter, our protagonist, Laura Harris, hears about the news. She rushes over from San Fran to LA. She heads in alone to get to the bottom of things. What are the LAPD doing? Hanging back. LA's finest, ladies and gentlemen. The director's cut gives more context to why this is the case. Richter is threatening to kill the hostages unless they send in Laura alone. To note, I'm not playing the director's cut, but we'll make note of some of its changes later on. It doesn't take long before Laura is whisked away to a strange land. D is very much a minimal game on all accounts, starting with its movement. It's not free movement, and it's not quite a point and click. Use the direction keys to turn, move forward, or move back. On rails in a way, Laura takes her time in all movements. The on-rails approach to movement does have the occasional issue. There can be ambiguity in your movements in the room, what I like to call path hunting. I call it that as it reminds me of the common pitfalls of pixel hunting in point-and-click titles, where something you can interact with or pick up can find itself tucked away in an obscure corner that's easy to miss. The path hunting issue arises in about a handful of rooms throughout D, where it's unclear if you can move to a certain part of the room. You end up looping around the room to reach a certain part of it, if you can at all. It's a bit of an awkward jaunt. It's not too bad, but with the game's slow movement, it results in tedium and frustration. What adds to this frustration is the game's time limit. You have 2 hours to complete D. We have a watch we can look at to see our time. We have between 3 and 5 o'clock. There's no saving or pausing. That said, that's more than enough time to beat the game unless you get stumped by some of its puzzles or path hunting. You can't die a conventional death in D, although there are a few cases where it seems like you might. One possible death is during the game's end choice, or if you let the 2-hour time window pass in which Laura is tossed out of this strange land. On the note of this strange land and minimalism, D's atmosphere is phenomenal. It's a great showing of how minimalism can add so much to drive a game's haunting atmosphere. D does thrive with the early, primitive 3D look of the mid-90s, where the low poly and texture count gets the mind to fill in the blanks. Something that started to fade away a bit by the late 90s and early 2000s, with the transition to the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox era of gaming. Something that returned with the rise of indie games, but few can replicate that feeling that was from back then. Adding to the atmosphere is the minimal soundtrack. Ambient soundscapes with a few notes that loop over and over as we wander. Something that becomes hypnotic after a time. There's plenty of great stingers and sounds coming across gruesome scenes. There's great usage of no music at all, only hearing the sounds of Laura's echoing footsteps as we make our way forward. Beyond some yells and gasps, Laura doesn't talk. Add in these slow, deliberate movements, and what you have here is one immersive experience. Over 30 years later, it still puts many games to shame. Goes to show you don't need development teams in the hundreds or thousands in bloated budgets to suck the player in. So, what does this castle have in store for us? Let's take a look around. Throughout D, there's these scarab beetles we could find to fill in some of the blanks of its minimal story. 4 beetles to collect. Let's call this first one, John. That was quite the scene. In this case, maybe living is easy with eyes closed. D does have a few puzzles throughout. Find the right item to combine with something in the environment to get your way forward. If you get stuck, we do have a compact we can use for a hint, although it will break after usage. There's this annoying bugger of a timing puzzle with the switch to get the right number, 78. This one took far longer than I cared to admit. I guess old Boulder's reflexes aren't quite what they used to be. With this ring, we can move on to the next stretch of the game. We have quite the scene here of moving us to the next location. Yeah, that was a bit of a goofy moment. Not sure why we couldn't descend the stairs, hearing only Laura's footsteps, wondering what lies for us at the bottom, now some doors shut behind us moving forward. And come on, Laura, what kind of push on that boulder was that? Give it some effort. You know, you could try something else. A boulder kick? What about a boulder knee? Throw your hip at the boulder to try and move it? What about a headbutt? No, not that either. I'm blanking on something here. Guess she could take her hand, make it into a fist, and throw in the general direction of that boulder? What's the name of this channel again? This room here at the bottom, past the boulder, is one of the more egregious cases of path hunting in the game. Getting to this one corner of the room with the desk is a bit of an ordeal of moving from point to point. But on this desk lies another one of the beetles. Let's call this one Paul. Oh, poor Laura. I guess yesterday all her troubles seemed so far away. Continuing forward, we'll hear from Laura's dear old dad, Richter, taking this liquid-like form to warn us of what lies ahead.
Laura, what are you doing? Go back. Now. Laura, you can't stop me. Leave the hospital. Quickly. If you do not, you'll never be able to return to your own world. Do you understand, Laura? Quickly!
And now we enter a bit of a filler stretch in D. But before that, another beetle. Let's call this one George. My sweet lord, what's going on here? Along with that, we'll get another moment with dear old Papa Richter.
Laura. 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 Soon I will no longer be the man you know. I can feel my control slipping away. Quickly, before that happens, you must leave here. I want you, of all people, to be safe from me. Laura, there's nothing I can...
So what makes this stretch the filler stretch? It's the chamber you end up in. A switch on one side. This will take us to several other rooms, but you have to turn the switch several times, over and over, which takes its sweet time. Turn around to see if you unlock the way down a new direction. One room takes 3 turns, another takes 5, one takes 6, and another takes 10. Very much one of those moments where you see yourself reflected on the screen, looking back at yourself. What are you doing here? How did you end up here? Where did it all go wrong? Speaking of things going wrong, we have a QTE to navigate through. where Laura deals with this knight armor. Now, if you screw up, it's all good. No game over, you just need to try again. Before using the sword on the door, we could check it out first, which leads to an amusing scene. There's something about how Laura fingers this door that gives me a chuckle, the way it zooms in on the action. And it wouldn't be a horror game without a puzzle involving astrology signs. With that, we're able to drain a pool and give us access to a treasure chest. Of course, we need to get back to that room, requiring us to spin the rooms over and over to get to the right one. I have to wonder how much time of my playthrough consisted of turning this switch again and again. What awaits us within the treasure chest? A firearm which we'll need to progress forward. One of the rooms had a stained glass window, which we can now break through. First, another message from Dad in liquid form.
Laura. Laura. Soon I will be transformed. When that happens, my new self will have need of you. This other self is one I cannot control. It is he who has done these horrible things. Laura, leave here. He wants you.
Now we ascend to the game's final stretch. This dark hallway is one of the best examples of the game's primitive graphics adding to the atmosphere. You can only see but a short stretch in front of you. What waits for us on the other side? Well, for one thing, an answer to what the D stands for, thanks to Liquid Richter.
Laura! Laura, do not come to me. The one who I am to become needs blood for the change to be complete. You have seen what he will do, and it is your blood that he wants most. Laura, we are cursed. In our veins flows the blood of Dracula.
There you go. The D is Dracula. Is that what you were expecting? Leave a comment below of what you thought the D meant when coming into this game. With that, we have our final Beetle Ringo here. Let's see what's in store. Laura, I don't think that's what Ringo meant when he said I get by with a little help from my friends. What awaits us is one final puzzle, of lining up clock gears, another horror game classic. One that took me longer than similar puzzles in other games. One final ascent will bring us to the game's ending, which again goes to show how much tension and atmosphere you could build with simplicity and minimalism. Stepping through this painting, we'll be face to face with dear old dad and get some more answers and a choice.
So, Laura, you've come. Now I will tell you everything. Hear me and leave before the one who is not me can emerge. Laura, in our veins flows the blood of Dracula. The time of change comes to all of his blood. It starts with lust for the strange. Then comes the desire for human flesh to make the change complete. Yes, Laura, that time came for you as well. I erased the memory so you have forgotten. When Dracula took control of you, with those very hands you killed your mother. It is our fate to be accursed. And now you know you must leave. I feel myself changing. I want your flesh, Laura. Listen to what I say. It is your flesh that I need, just as you needed your mother's. Come to me!
We do have a firearm in our inventory. Let's see what happens there.
Laura, you've ended it. Thank you. A little more, and the change would have been complete. Perhaps, as a doctor, I wanted to see how the transformation would affect me. But that was wrong. And now, I will end my life as a man of flesh and blood. Laura, thank you. I love you. My last wish is that
What follows is a bit of a shift music-wise with its credit scene. I love these old credit scenes where you see the staff who worked on the game. And one final haunting sound awaits us if you collected all flashback scenes. Of course, we could also step toward Richter, in which case Laura has a more gruesome fate. Sounds over the credits are unsettling, to say the least.
Thank you, Laura. Now the transformation will be complete. But Laura, your body will not be wasted. Your flesh and blood will join with mine, and we will live forever as Dracula. Ah, Laura!
And so ends D. Well, there is more with the director's cut, a 3DO and Japanese exclusive. So exclusive numbers that game creator Kenji Eno hand-delivered copies. They did tweak some of the cutscenes, but the major addition is the visual novel that fleshes out the story. There is a translation I'll link to in the pinned comment and description if you're interested in reading. It's quite a long read considering how minimal the story is in-game. You learn about Vlad the Impaler, how he becomes Dracula, how the curse passed down. It covers Richter Harris, his upbringing, his medical studies, and how he met his wife, how he struggles to keep the beast within him and feeding on others, the birth of Laura and how she succumbed to the beast, murdering and feeding on her mother. At long last, he succumbs to the beast and feasts on flesh, leading to the game's events. If you're a devotee to D and curious, go ahead and give it a read. But if anything, I found it took away from the game's story. Its minimal approach gave you room to fill in the blanks yourself of how things came to be. Now, this visual novel doesn't answer every lingering question, but it does take away from the mystery, like a magician showing you how a trick's done. But there's a far more interesting story of D to cover. Its development led by Kenji Eno. He founded Warp in the mid-90s, a small team structured more like a band than a company. One of its early employees was Fumito Ueda. He worked on the director's cut of D and the next title, Enemy Unknown. He would go on to lead Team Ico and create Ico, Shadow the Colossus, and The Last Guardian. He took great influence from Kenji Eno. He very much took an auteur approach to those titles. There's a great documentary here on YouTube on Kenji Eno from the channel Archipel that I'll link to. Kenji was very much an individual who marched to the beat of his own drum. The industry was very much in the Wild West days of the mid-90s that made it easier for him to be like that. More evident in how D came together. When making D, there was minimal story at first. Working on his own, Kenji threw in the flashbacks to create a narrative. He didn't know at first that Dracula would enter the fold. He kept this hidden from his team. In reading interviews and watching the documentary, it's a bit vague. Did he get the staff to create these cutscenes and leave them in the dark, or did he make them himself? Kenji wanted to include taboo elements in the industry at the time, excessive violence and cannibalism. So how did Kenji get away with it? How he did is one of those legendary game development stories. Development wrapped up, he submitted a clean build, one without the violence. Kenji took a small penalty by submitting the master build late, but this allowed him to hand in the build by hand, at which point he swapped the builds beforehand and released the version you've seen here, allowing him to get by censorship. There was a time frame when you could do this. I have to wonder how many others tried something similar. Couldn't find anything on it though. I have to wonder how the higher-ups in the publishing side of things thought about it when they realized what happened. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. And all things considered, things turned out okay for D. The game was a hit in Japan, selling over 1 million copies there even before hitting the PlayStation. Which leads to another one of those legendary Kenji moments. One that unfortunately seems to have been lost to time and being captured on video. Pre-orders for D on the PlayStation were around 100,000 units. But Sony decided to give other titles manufacturing priority. They ended up manufacturing about 28,000 units of D. Kenji was not happy, to say the least. He ended up burning his bridges with Sony over it. At a Tokyo Game Show, on stage he announced his games would be Sega exclusive moving forward. On screen, the PlayStation logo morphed into the Saturn logo. Thing is, he's very much a Sony fan. He did have a lot of Sony products at home, but this felt like a great betrayal to him. The word absolute mad lad comes to mind when I hear stories like this. While his future titles did alright, they didn't quite reach the success of D. And shutting himself off the PlayStation platform turned out to be a bit of an ill-advised move, seeing how PlayStation would become the dominant force on the market. After the release of D2 in 1999, in the early 2000s, Kenji would step away from the game industry for a time. He would work on an array of projects. One project he was involved with was buying Coca-Cola from a vending machine using your cell phone, pre-smartphone days. Another project was rebranding an old Japanese hotel. It was the Wii that got him interested in getting back into game development. He would release You, Me, and the Cubes in 2009 in what would be his last game. Afterward, he began to move into the world of teaching the next generation of game creators at a school in Tokyo. Unfortunately, Kenji Eno would pass away of heart failure in February 2013 at the age of 42. The documentary I mentioned earlier, and what I've been featuring footage of here, goes to show you how much of an impact he had on others. His family, his friends, his co-workers, other developers in the industry. Hideo Kojima appears several times in this documentary, knowing how much of an influence Kenji had on him, from his approach to game design and how he approaches business. You could see the influence that he had on Fumito Ueda with his work on Team Ico. Kenji helped lay the groundwork for auteurs in the game development space. Instead of working for a large company, he had his own. A bit of a punk rock attitude and taking a more indie-like approach that's common these days. Again, very much a case of someone marching to the beat of their own drum. The works of Kenji Eno have been something I've wanted to cover on the channel for some time. I will be looking at his future horror titles, Enemy Zero and D2. I look forward to seeing how they expand on what he laid down here with D. A minimal title on all fronts, which does look primitive these days. It can be a bit plotting at points, even with its short runtime. Some of the cutscenes can be a bit silly, but it has a look and atmosphere that pull you in like few other games can. Close the blinds, turn out the lights, throw on a good pair of headphones, and immerse yourself for a couple of hours into the world of D. You won't regret it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you have not done so. Curious to hear below in the comments what you thought the D stood for, or your experiences with the game. Special shout out to the Boulder Punchers who give extra support to the channel on Patreon or YouTube memberships. For those in the complete global saturation tier, American Boot and Flan Nagel. For those in the thank you for your patronage tier, Tom Terrible. For those in the now this is Boulder punching tier, Ethan, James Warner, Cray, the Madman in Waco, Nate 2, the original Narcisse Diet Thick Do TM Neo Edition. For those in the Jill Sandwich tier, Angel, Benji, Benny Winterdawn, BBF in Bloxburg, Darkrod99, Dragonfang Studios, James Kilgore, Leonard Arnson, Logan Lepin, Mad Morpheus Gaming, Mikkel B, Nico Pero, Sam Jones, Squid Vicious, Strababina, Vinyl Morpheus, Will Han, and Zin. And now for the post-video Q&A, those in the Jill Sandwich tier and above can ask questions. From Flanegel, are there any other Japanese FMVs you want to cover down the road? And are any of them as bizarre or funny as Harvester or It Came from the Desert? Thank you for the question, Flan. The one that pops to mind is The Fear, which is a PS2 game from the early 2000s. I believe it's a 2001 title. Live action, so it's a bit higher budget. It looks to have a high level of cheese within it. The thing is, there isn't a English translation patch as far as I know. There are guides that translate it, but it would be a bit annoying to go back and forth between the two. Maybe something I really do hope there would be like an English translation patch. Make things a lot easier. But as far as Japanese FMVs go, looking elsewhere, there's much less to choose from in that space compared to what's out there in the West. Or, I have to probably dive in deeper to find some really out there ones. But yeah, as far as FMVs go with the Japanese space, it's a lot more limited and than what you'd find from Western titles. So thank you for the question. Thanks to everyone for watching. Again, if you're interested in supporting the channel through YouTube, Patreon memberships, check the pinned comment in the description. You can also do one-time donations through Super Thanks or Ko-fi. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next video.